you will find that closing sponsorships and getting deals comes a lot easier with that kind of approach. Don't buy built cars. Promise you. It's the best advice that's going to come out of this video.
Drip and Drift.
Welcome to the Drip and Drip podcast. I am Nick, and today we got Justin Eiland in the building.
How you guys doing?
Dude, I'm doing great. I know they're probably doing great. You should be doing great, although you just had motor blow.
I'm actually really happy with how the car ran this last event, even though I torched the head, because I've been having so many issues, and for the first time, even though it was only for one lap, without a single problem happening, the car ran perfect. And that just tells me that I'm moving in the right direction. Yeah. I'm going to have the cylinder head repaired by tomorrow, the motor put back in, and the small little adjustments that we need to make done by this weekend. So it's not a big setback. It's definitely frustrating that I had 3 days of driving that I was expecting and got a couple laps before we ran into an issue, but I'm really happy with where we're at. It's never sounded that healthy. It's never ran that good. So
good.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and like you were saying, dude, it's pretty wild to see how you were telling me how, like, you break something at this event, it's already almost done, and next weekend, like less than a week, you'll have. Before
this event, the one before, I bought a car.
I heard that, just for one part.
Yeah, so I first time driving the car with that much power, I got a little overzealous on the entry, and I flicked it in too hard. Mistakes happen. Buddy I was tandeming with came up and clipped my rear end, and we broke the axle, the hub, and bent the lower control arm for the rear. So me and my whole team, we start going on auto parts stores. We start going on junkyards and trying to source out an E36. And I found an E36 on Facebook Marketplace for $500. I hit up the guy, and I was like, hey, I need this part off the car right now. I'm at the track trying to get back on the track. And the dude was like, $100, come and take the car today. My landlord wants it gone. And I was like, I'll give you $100. I'll come rob the parts off it today and take the rest of the car tomorrow. Does that work? And he was like, sure, I'll leave the jack out. So we hopped in the truck, disconnected the trailer, headed to the dude's house, got there, pulled the axle out together with the half shaft, pulled the lower control arm, the hub, everything. I ended up cutting the brake line because it didn't fit from the M3 to the 318 stuff. So one side of the car was 318, the other side was M3, but it worked. It got me back out on track, and I got a couple extra laps in, which was super cool.
Nice, dude. Dang. Yeah, dude, that's what I was saying. That's wild how quick you are with that. That's real impressive.
Yeah.
So getting into cars and then getting into drifting, how'd that all come about for you? Because you haven't been doing drifting too long, so.
I haven't had the best luck to be able to keep drifting for very long. I got my first drift car, which was an IS300 that I manual swapped back in like 2016, 2017. Welded diff, BC coilovers, no angle, no hydro. And it was my daily driver car, and I swung that thing around everywhere. I didn't really go to the track back then. I was naive, I guess. Drifting wasn't necessarily so main stage as it is now, and I also wasn't looking to go to a drift event. I just enjoyed driving the car, and it was fun to go sideways. I didn't do it for attention. I didn't do it to film it. I didn't do it for any purpose of like going anywhere with it. It was just something I liked to do. So I got comfortable at sliding that car around. It started in first gear doing little stuff, and then I was able to do second gear, bigger stuff, and go to different areas. And eventually that car got totaled. Got wrecked on I-4, which is a sad day. And then I tried my hand at street racing stuff. So I built a 700 horsepower BMW 335i, 6-speed manual, big single turbo, 1200cc injectors, N54, and I hated that car. It drove great, made a lot of power. I didn't need that power. I didn't need it for the street, and street racing just wasn't that fun to me. So it was after I built that car that I was like, you know what? I was really decent at drifting in comparison to all my buddies and the people that I really knew, because I wasn't a part of the drift community, and they were like, you need to get back into it. You're good at it. Maybe you have a shot at something, at least from what I've seen. And I was like, all right. I bought another IS. I bought a manual swap for $500 that I had been sitting on for a while. So I bought an auto IS, and I was like, okay, I'm going to manual swap it and get back out on the track. It was NAT auto, only tuned by wastegate pressure and fuel pressure regulator. It didn't have an ECU in there or anything. It wasn't properly tuned. So shortly after I got that car, don't buy built cars. Promise you, it's the best advice that's going to come out of this video. Don't buy somebody else's project. Shortly after I got it, it started to get blow by real bad. And I pulled the turbo off, and I was like, you know what? I bought this car to drift it. I'm just going to send it with some headers and the blow by as bad as it is, and slap a manual transmission in there, weld the diff. First time I ever drove a car with actual angle, I put Drift HQ angle adapters, so not full angle kit, but more than stock, it's plenty. That is plenty of angle for a car that's making less than like 300, 350 horsepower. Went out to my first event, very first day, was a learner's day. January learner's day, or I think last year was February. Went out there, C-class, never been on track before, immediately started linking the track. I don't think I looped once at my very first event at all. Like, it was just consistent. It could have been, now, it could have been more aggressive. I definitely could have been given more throttle. I definitely could have been hitting it harder, but...
Yeah, retrospect.
Immediately made it up to B-class, very first event. I was super stoked about that.
Yeah.
Went to go to Spring Break Bash after. I was on the website at 8 o'clock when the tickets go live. Started putting in my information, hit purchase, and they were already sold out because it sells out very fast. So I actually didn't get to go to another official, like, public drift event in that car. I went to a couple warehouse locations, and I went to the compound a couple times, and just every chance I could, I was driving that car trying to get better, because to me, it's not necessarily about being all public with it. Now it is with sponsors and everything else, but back then it was just, I wanted to become the best driver that I could. So if I could hit the road for 2 hours down to the compound with as many wheels and tires as I could, nobody's out there. I got my jack, I got my breaker bar, and take the side skirts off, take the front bumper and the rear bumper off in case I go off track, and just have a full day of driving. And I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing myself to get better until the motor went. And the motor went slowly on that car. It lost compression every time I drove it until pulled the motor out, pulled the motor apart, and 3 of the pistons were cracked. It was still running and driving with 3 cracked pistons, and that's a testimony to 2Js in themselves, because I beat the ever-living hell out of that car when it was turboed. I beat the ever-living car out of that when it was blow-by, no turbo, and just kept beating and beating and beating until it maybe was making like 90 horsepower. Like, if I showed you if I showed you the videos of me trying to slide it at like the last time I tried to slide it, it is just sad. It's really sad. So pulled the motor out of that car, and that's when I was like, I'm not going to let this stop me now. I need to get this motor built. I don't have the money to get a motor built. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I feel like I'm pretty good at driving at the level or the time that I have had doing it so far. And I was like, I'm going to find a way to make this work. I want to just go for it, all in, you know, all chips on black kind of deal. So I knew right from the start that I didn't grow up in a family that like was brought into racing at a young age, and I didn't grow up in a family that has enough money to just jump in. So those are typically in any top of the level motorsports. You've either got the people that started at a really young age or they got money. There's not much in between at a pro level, no matter what discipline of motorsports you're talking about. And I was like, I'm going to have to find another way to make this happen, because I'm going to make this happen. So I called Bucked Up, who I had done some social media work for in the past, and I've generated like 700,000+ views for them in one video. They were really happy with me, and oh, I should have said that before.
It's all good.
Okay, so this was before the car blew up. Pre-emphasize. I called them before while I was building the IS about doing a sponsorship. They said that they were willing to get the car wrapped, and I told them that the motor had bad blow-by, and they were like, okay, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. That bridge came up a lot quicker than we expected. So when I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I need to get this motor built if I'm going to continue doing this, he was like, okay, send a proposal, we'll see what we can do, but probably not, right? I sent the proposal, and he came back without saying no. He said that he really likes the idea of getting into drifting. He really likes the sport and everything else I was saying, but he'd rather invest more money into somebody that is already established at the top of the sport, which is very fair from a business perspective.
Totally.
Like, that is the best play for him. So instead of being like, oh, dang, I can't do it, I immediately responded and said, I can make that happen for you, with absolutely no way of making that happen for him. I told him, I was like, I can get you one of the best drivers. I can close the deal. What can you do for me then? And he said that if I did that, that I could be worked into the program and worked into the deal. So I was like, say less. At that point, I hopped in the car and just, I think it was like a week out from Road Atlanta. I hopped in the car at the middle of the night and just drove to Atlanta and started talking to everyone. I've gone to FD events for the last 5-6 years, so it wasn't hard for certain drivers and certain teams to recognize me. Dylan Hughes' mom already followed me on social media, and a couple other drivers knew who I was because I did photos and media for them and established a connection.
Cool.
So now I went out there, and instead of just going out there to meet people and network, I had a purpose. I had a deal that was very real from a very real corporate company that I could offer to a driver and actually make this happen. So it took me about 2 months of trying every single angle that I could to reach Dylan Hughes' manager, because I knew I wanted to do Dylan Hughes. His mom followed me on Instagram. He's a very good he's not much of up and coming anymore, but for how long he's been in the pro season and from his track record, he is becoming one of the top drivers in the top level very quickly, and he's still very young. So I knew that he was, and he's also not signed to a major energy drink sponsor like NOS or Monster or what is the other main one? NOS, Monster, and Rockstar in FD. So no energy drink sponsor, one of the best that's not already in a huge contract with them. Knew who I wanted. So I chased every angle that I could to try to get into speaking with his actual team and getting his team to take me seriously as somebody that had something to offer. It ended up being Richard Wong at the RTR event Unveil in Orlando, that's the head of marketing for Sony Audio, that Dylan Hughes is also sponsored by, and he had the contact in and got me into the, the Zoom call with Dylan's manager, him, and myself, and I was like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm trying to do, this is what I can offer, and this is where we're at. And he was like, seriously? And I was like, yeah, this is not a joke. So I started working with Dylan Hughes and his team and his manager and brokering the deal back and forth with Bucked Up, updating emails back and forth, coming up with pricing, this is what we can offer, this is the spots on the car, yada, 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 and finding a way to work him into the Dylan Hughes program moving forwards. And Bucked Up, even then, didn't really care too much about it. They have a lot of things going on. They have a lot of events. They have a lot of marketing. They are a very, very major company. And even though to me and to the normal person, this is a major deal, to them, it's just, I don't want to say it's nothing to them, but it is one of many different things that they're investing into in the year, and they don't have to put all their chips on it. So I really had to fight to just keep this on the front page of like what Bucked Up was looking at in his emails and keep it up to date. And nothing was going to close yet until I had a trump card up my sleeve, which was I need to get Dylan Hughes, I need to get his manager, I need to get me, and I need to get the owner of Bucked Up to sit down for a meeting in Utah, because that's where Bucked Up's located at. And I was like, if I can fly out to Utah, and I spent all my last money on that trip. I flew out to Utah and I wore my best suit and a collared shirt, and I bought some nice shoes and a belt that matched, and I looked dressed to the T. And I sat down at that dinner at the Cheesecake Factory, and I closed the deal with them. And now I had a budget to come back home and buy a Pro-Am Pro-Spec ready drift car, which was ridiculous. Not to mention, in the meantime, I've been putting hundreds to almost probably 1,000 hours of sim time practice on a full Fanatec top-of-the-line full motion simulator to just make my driving better, even though my car had been down. Yeah. So without driving an actual car, my driving had increased tenfold. And I felt like I was ready to get into a car that had this power, that had this grip, and actually take it to the big leagues and play with the big dogs. So when I came back, got the car from a reputable source, I'm not going to say who because of the issues that I've had with it, but again, don't buy a built car. My plan from the beginning was to build the motor on the IS, and somehow I ended up managing to get a budget to go buy a car with the sponsor and just get immediately out on the track. Since I got the car, I planned an unveil at Tuners Unveiled because I'm good friends with the owner of that show that they do. Brings out a lot of people, and it was the perfect place, perfect spot to get a lot of eyes on the car like that. So we got the car wrapped, Wraps for Less. They did an amazing job getting the car wrapped in one day.
Nice.
Got it printed the day before, and the whole car was done in one day, which is insane.
Yeah.
Loaded on the trailer, took it to Tuners Invade. I did the whole interior on the car because it was completely bare. I did carpet, dash, speakers for Sony audio, readjusted everything, and got the little things. I made the door panels because there were none. They were just gutted out, and I made it come down, cut in over the cage. I love the work and the fabrication I put on that car. It makes it mine. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So got that car there, got it done in time, got it unveiled, and then SEMA was in 2 days after I unveiled the car. Okay. And I had a possibility of maybe getting credentials to go to SEMA, but I didn't have a confirmation on that. I didn't have a place to stay, and I didn't have any other plan except for I now have this car and a major sponsor, but that was their whole sponsorship for the year. Bucked Up isn't helping with anything else. It's on me. They helped me get the car, and I can't be more thankful for that, but everything from there on was on me. Yeah. And I'm, again, not made of money, so racing's expensive. If you don't come from like a wealthy family or have built up from a long period of time over the years, it ain't gonna work. So I was like, you know what? I have to be at SEMA. I didn't even have the money for the plane tickets out there, so I traded my wheels with Chris, Burnt the Ship C6 that was just on your podcast. And he gave me, because he was going the wide body, the 3-piece, the WEDs, 5x114. Yeah. So I traded my 3-piece WEDs off the IS for extra Cosmos wheels that were the exact spec that I was running on that car already.
Okay.
Plus $400 cash. And that $400 bought my round trip ticket to Vegas and back with absolutely nothing else guaranteed. So I show up at 2 a.m. the morning before SEMA, and my phone was dead the whole time on the flight. And I had no way to contact the people that I was supposed to be seeing when I got there, or hopefully going to be seeing. And I knew what room they were in. Or not what room, I knew what hotel they were in, so I went up to the front desk and figured out what room, and then I went up there and I knocked on the door and I was like, hey, I'm here from Florida, super last minute. Do you think that you could get me those credentials we talked about? And I ended up crashing on the hotel room floor. with like just an extra sheet and a pillow and nothing comfortable to sleep on, and went to SEMA every day, basically just pitching myself and marketing myself to this like list of companies that I wanted to tick off and like try with. And even if I didn't close the deal with them then, I got the contacts that I needed to, where if I came across something in the program that I needed as a part, I have a direct line of contact to somebody that can get me that part pretty much for the entire car. I hit up a suspension, I hit angle kit, I hit axles, I hit brakes, I hit calipers, I hit pistons, rods. Like I got contacts with every possible company that I could need for the racing program, just in case. And then the main one was I needed a tire sponsor. Tires are expensive, and it ain't gonna mean shit if you're running just the tires that I used to run in drifting, like used $40 a tire tires that are just burners. They're just going to get shredded and torn apart, and I'm not going to make enough grip to be able to use the power of the car that I'm running in the first place. So I needed to get a tire sponsor. My first go-to was Kenda. Cosmo was kind of my second, but I have some personal reasons that I don't really want to go with them. I'm not going to get into that, but that was my second option. Kenda was my first. So I showed up at the Kenda booth, and I talked to the guys out front, and I told them a little bit of what was going on. I told them how I got the car and where I was at, and they gave me the contact to Edward, who is Driver Image on Instagram. He is the head of marketing for Kenda.
Okay.
So I got back to the hotel room that night, and I sent a long paragraph text, and I was like, "Hello, Edward. My name is Justin. This is what I'm doing. This is what I did. This is where I'm from. This is what my plans and goals are." And I've been honest with everyone from the beginning. I don't have much money of my own. If it was me, I couldn't be doing any of the stuff I was doing. And I told him everything that I wanted to do, and there was no response. He didn't text back or anything. So I showed up at the Kenda booth the next day, and I talked to the people again. And Edward was running around Kenda doing marketing stuff the entire day. He's barely at the booth. So they told me that he would be back in like an hour and a half. So I waited around, and I hung out there until he got back. I walked up, introduced myself, said, "Hi, Edward, I'm Justin. I sent you a text last night." And he looked at me, and he was like, "Yeah, I got it. How did you get my number?" And I was like, "I just talked to people." And he was like, "Well, we're not doing any personal sponsorships this year. We're not even doing any personal FD sponsorships with any of the pros. Like, basically, no luck with it, right?" And I was like, "I understand that." We talked for a little bit, and he gave me 30 minutes to sit down and talk with him. And in that 30 minutes, I was able to tell him my story and who I am and where I've come from, and he bought. So on basically a handshake deal, no contract signed, they sent me out free tires for the first 2 months of what I needed to drift. I still have quite a few left, so I'm still good for now. And if I deliver on the content and everything else, I get more tires.
No.
But that is something, again, that just doesn't happen. And I feel like the reason that I've been able to close these deals and get the help that I've had is because I'm not afraid to just tell people like that I'm all in on it and be honest about what I'm trying to achieve.
Be transparent.
Be very transparent. So I was able to come home, get the tires that I needed. I closed a couple other deals that were really cool, and they're still not announced or haven't become a part of the program yet. They're kind of on standby until I'm ready to put them in the car.
Yeah.
One of those is going to be E-Flex fuel, so I can run E95 and E80 or 93 and E85 together and have the tune adjust for it independently. I've got a brake company out of Australia that makes some really awesome performance brakes, and I've got some other companies that are definitely, when I'm ready for it, going to become a part of the program to really get that car to the next level. Because I've been spending so much time going through the motor that I haven't had enough time to go through the rest of it. But trust me when I say that car is going to be something else by the time the season's over. It's going to be wild.
Yeah.
Now my goals from here.
Yeah. 2024, what are you doing this year?
2024, I'm going to be doing the Pro-Am Series, which is going to be my first competitive series ever. It is definitely going to be an experience. You know, I came into the drift scene as who the hell is this kid? How the hell did he get this car and these sponsors? And like, all of a sudden I skipped the middle level. I came in on the beginner level and I did the true like grassroots beginner level. And then I was gone for a year and a half practicing on simulators almost every single day, putting a ton of hours on it. And then came back all of a sudden. Now I'm at like big dog level, right? And playing with the big dogs is not easy. There's big dog problems and there's big dog bills to pay when you're playing with the big dogs. But all of a sudden, some nobody just came back with a pro-ready car to just send it and put a lot of eyes on me, which is good. Sponsors like that. And all I want to do is I just want to drive hard, drive harder every lap, and become the best driver that I can. The end-all goal for 2024, if everything goes right, which everything never goes right, would be to get my pro spec license and move up. But I have a feeling that that's most likely not going to happen, and it'll probably take me another year, I'd say. I'm fairly confident that by the time next year rolls around, I can probably secure my pro spec license. And I don't need to win the Pro-Am Series to get my pro spec license. After talking with Chris Jackson and a lot of other people, it's not really who wins that they're looking for. It's who has a program that can actually sustain traveling the country and being in a different city once every 2 weeks to compete on that level. Because you can be a damn good driver. You can be the best driver there is. But if you don't have a program that can support you taking that kind of step forwards, then you're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah. I hear they also nominate. Like, I thought if you won, they give you a pro license, but you like get nominated from U.S. Drift Circuit or whoever's the event organizer.
And there is one other way, which I am in a unique position to possibly be able to do, but I really, really don't want to. And that's being petitioned in. If I come out Pro-Am Series and I kill it and I'm doing good, and even if I don't win or I don't get my pro spec through that, I have a pro driver that has been watching everything that I've been doing, and I have a sponsor that could help me get petitioned in. But I really don't want to do that. I'm already getting looked down upon as far as this kid doesn't deserve to have the car or be where he's at right now, and I completely understand that. Everybody that is thinking that, I get it. I really do. I understand that I'm in a unique position, but it didn't come from nothing. That is another way to get put into the pro spec, is you can be petitioned in. And I'm going to do everything in my power to earn it the correct way. I don't want to have the backlash that Adam LZ had when he got petitioned in without doing the normal Pro-Am Series and working his way up. Granted, he's a really good driver and he's got a lot of driving under his belt, so it makes sense. Not to mention he brought, I believe it was somewhere between 5 to 7% of the overall viewership to Formula Drift his very first year in it.
Yeah. You see the streams go down a little bit when he gets knocked out or when like it's not his turn. Like,
definitely, 100%. But me, I watch every single one all the way through. I'm so about it. I love drifting, and that's the only reason that I have done everything that I have. And it's been big risks, but the big risks have come with big failures, and they've come with even bigger rewards so far. So if you have something you're passionate about and you love it, you just have to go for it. Like, I'm 25. I don't know how old you're. 33. There's a lot of life left. There's a lot of years left for all of us. You know, go for it now. What is there to lose, right?
Yeah, I completely agree.
I am very firm on believing that you can turn your life into whatever you want your life to be no matter what kind of upbringing or roots you came from. You know, there's no excuse. One of my best buddies in high school, his dad was a drug dealer. They lived in a trailer park, and this kid had like the worst upbringing that anyone could really have. And he ended up being valedictorian. He got a full ride scholarship to Notre Dame. He moved his younger brother there with him, and now is one of the most successful people that I know. And his upbringing was the worst. It literally does not matter where you come from. If you have something you want to do and you're passionate enough about it and willing to take those risks and put in the work, and even if it's a small step forwards every day, you just keep moving forwards towards your goal, you will achieve it.
Yeah.
I have no doubts that I will become a pro driver. How long it's going to be, how many more problems am I going to face, how hard is it going to be, what challenges is it going to be, I have no idea. But if you have a sense of naive optimism, it'll work out. If you're optimistic about your future and just naive to the challenges that's going to take along the way, it makes it a lot easier. So keep the goal envisioned and don't let whatever it seems impossible to face in the time bring you down, because just keep chipping.
Yeah. I feel people have that mental barrier for sure. And especially like when you're saying like you don't want people to get mad about the petitioning thing and how you've gone from like the beginning now to stepping up.
Yeah.
I think it also has to do with like your social media that you brought into that.
Oh, definitely.
Right? Like if you started Justin Eiland drifting social media as soon as you started drifting, I think it'd be a
bit more challenging.
Yeah,
definitely. But I believe I could have made it work
for sure
by skipping the step of already having done the work for Bucked Up and having that one main sponsor. I feel like I still could have made it work by going to the events that I went to and just I was sneaking into VIP areas and making up stories for why I needed to be in there and just doing everything that I could to get into the areas where the right people were there for me to talk to.
Yeah.
And sponsors don't really care about the numbers on your following as much as they care about the story. You know, if you present them with a great story and a detailed plan of execution, you could still close deals like this. I full-heartedly believe that because I've been there, I've talked to the people that do the sponsorships, and I've had good long conversations about that, like Edward with Kenda Tire. There's so many people out there that have fake following. There are so many people out there that have bots following them and things like that. So that's not the main key point that the sponsors are looking for. It was just a huge advantage that I had already done social media and learned the inner workings of it for the last few years as like my career choice before I decided to go all in on driving. And you can definitely have it done, but you have to take some unorthodox paths to get into contact with these people because it's not easy to get high ticket contacts, but it is easy to if you can surround yourself in the area and company that they're in. So you know that the person you want to talk to is going to be at this event at this time, and you take a risk and you fly out there and you just talk to them and you let them know what you are trying to do and you be serious about what you want to do, and you're like, I'm going to make this happen whether you're a part of it or not, but I would love for you to be a part of it. Nothing is going to stop me from making it happen. You will find that closing sponsorships and getting deals comes a lot easier with that kind of approach, for sure.
Cool. Well, speaking on sponsors, if you want to talk about the sponsors you got and what value do you provide for them? Because I know that's like nobody gets just free parts. You have to do something for them in some type of way. So what do you specifically do to help out these people?
Right now, man, I feel like I've been letting my sponsors down, and I feel so bad about it, and it's because the car just hasn't run right. I am this close. We've rebuilt the motor now, and it's running better than ever, but I kept running into a few little stupid issues this weekend. That's the reason I'm going out this weekend to the new undisclosed location, and it's just for media. because I don't want to just put out the same kind of media that people are putting out from every single drift event. Granted, it helps. I've got editing experience. I can put together some pretty awesome videos for these sponsors for them to promote on their own pages and mine as well. But I haven't had the chance to do that because the car hasn't been working right.
Yeah.
But I want to do some like really unique stuff, right? So I've got buddies of mine from the years that I've done flipping and like parkour and just different extreme sports disciplines outside of drifting, that I've got some really cool contacts with some cool people that can do some great stuff, like some of the top pro scooter riders in the country, or like some people that are killer on motocross and things like that. So I want to do like old school nitro circus, like old school Red Bull shit. And one of the first videos I want to film is I want to tow my buddy in when his collarbone heals on the scooter, and I'm going to tow him in with the back of the car, clutch kick, go around a kicker, slide sideways, and he's going to flip whip it. And like, I want to set the car up and have like some of my other buddies that do stuff sesh the top of the roll cage on the car because it is a vert. You can take it off. I have so many really unique ideas that once I get everything flowing smoothly, I can start working on putting them into fruition. But I want to do more than just competing. I want to do more than just going to events and driving. I want to let my imagination run free and have the backing to be able to fill some just wild videos. And I love media creation. I've done it for years. I love drifting. I think that I could be really good and make a name for myself in the sport, but at the end of the day, I just kind of want to do some. Adam LZ, TJ Hunt, all of them, they make amazing vlogs. They make amazing content, but that's not necessarily what I'm trying to do. I'd rather put out shorter videos of just something really cool happening in the video, you know? And I have some headway on making things like that happen. I also have some headway on hosting some really cool events coming up. I have a location in Central Florida that has never been drifted before. It's a 1 mile long track that is used for police training. And I'm trying to set up a keep drifting off the streets, stop takeovers, partnership event there, and bringing the sponsors in and getting their names on these things and stuff like that is something that I can provide too. Getting them in the inside to help host events and put on these disclosed locations for filming days, and just I want to create some really cool stuff. I want to do gymkhana type stuff. I want to be jumping dirt bikes over the car while it's getting sideways. I want to fully send it and just do some really unique stuff. And at the beginning, getting the car seemed unreasonable or impossible, but doing these events and stuff seemed more and more day by day like more possible. Like it. Keep working towards the goal. It'll happen.
So this is kind of what you do. You share these ideas with a sponsor that you want to work with, and like you said, tell the story, tell them everything about yourself and what you want, the plan, but then share these ideas
and have big ideas, but you have to be able to deliver on them. Right. And I have all of the cards in my deck to deliver on these. So as soon as I get this car dialed and working right, my obviously, Pro-Am is going to be taking up a lot of my time. But my drive is going to flip. It's not going to be from like trying to get the car right. It's going to now turn into, okay, car's running right. What kind of crazy video can we film? Who can I hit up? Who can we, have do something crazy with the car? I'll hit up CJ, get the FPV drones out there. And I want to organize these media days with a select group of people rather than doing major events. And go out and just film this like one-of-a-kind content that no one else is doing. That's my goal, at least.
True. That's, definitely plausible. Like you're saying, dude, getting the car stuff, I felt like that would be impossible. But you did it, and now these events. And you brought up the police academy. I know Lone Star does that in Texas.
They do,
One of their tracks is a police academy. So,
and there's one right here that nobody really knows about.
I didn't know there was one.
Perfect. It is 1 mile of like just slaloms and turns, and it is like beautiful. And I already talked to the sheriff, and he really liked the idea, and they were on board with it. But the problem is it's no longer the sheriff's department's training facility. It's now the county's road and bridges department, and they're building a bridge just up the road from it. So they're in like full swing using that property for construction right now. Yeah. But they told me that in like the next couple months, that's going to slow down and that there might be a real possibility for doing it. So I'd love to be able to host my own event at a new track that no one's ever driven. That would be a major step too, for sure.
Agreed. What you currently, the bucked up car is an E36. I know you said the IS. You still have an IS.
I do, yeah.
Right? So you're gonna build that up a little bit.
So I have two ISs actually. I used to have an NA Miata that I would clutch kick everywhere, and it made no power. It was a stock 1.6, 1990, like the very second year technically. But this IS popped up for sale on Facebook Marketplace, totaled $2,800, factory manual, completely stock. And based on the pictures, headlight was taken out, fender was taken out, bumper was taken out, hood was taken out. But the frame rails were straight. The radiator didn't leak any coolant. The motor and transmission had slid forwards because the motor mounts broke, the transmission mount broke. And $2,800 for a factory manual IS. So I went and I looked at it, got underneath the car, and I was like, this motor just needs to be popped back into place, and this will be a running and driving car again. So I sold the Miata, bought the IS, and I've been using it as my daily. It's a shit box, but runs and drives good. And I'm finally going to pull the trigger and just rip the heart out of this car and put it back into my IS that I have all the money on and all the nice parts and everything else that I built to be a drift car, and get that back up and running so that way I can take that out to grassroots events and at least have a backup car to get some seat time in, even if the pro car fails, because more power makes more problems. And the IS was the car that I would drive 2 hours to the 2 hours to the compound, drive all day, and then drive it all the way back home. No problem. Drive it to the track. I didn't have a trailer. It was just daily drift car.
It's my Z right now,
Yeah, exactly. So that's the plan. I'm going to get that car back up and running. I don't have any sponsors on there. I may sponsor it myself. I may just do something to help promote myself. But it gives me not only two vehicles to be able to use for making content at any given point in time. I can call somebody up that's another good driver, or maybe somebody that I'm buddies with, their car's down or something, and I have a media day planned, or it gives me an extra puzzle piece to be able to fit in. And it'll be able to give me, if I just want to go to the compound for a weekend, I'll be able to have two cars there. So if I need somebody else to drive rather than showing up there and there's no one alone, I can still get some tandems in, still get some doors, and really enjoy it.
It's a good idea. Yeah, man. What made you get the E36? Because Miatas, Lexus, it sounds like you're more Japanese with cars.
For sure.
So then why the E36?
So the E36 is a very tested and proven chassis. It is one of the only older chassis that is still being competitive in the top of the sport today. E36 with Rome Sherpetier, E46 with Dylan Hughes. Chelsea DeNova's first pro car was the E36. All these top-end drivers really swear by this chassis, and I've never had the chance to drive one. But the one thing that I knew that I wanted was, when I was looking for the car, I wasn't really looking for the car. I was looking for the motor. And this motor had an almost identical blueprint of the build that I had planned for the IS. It had the same pistons, it had the same rods, same main caps, same springs and retainers, slightly different cams, but it was almost blueprint exactly what I was looking to build on my car. So I really bought it for the motor more than I did the chassis, but I knew that the E chassis was going to be a good one for competitive driving, whereas the IS is a little bit more heavy, it's a little bit more slow on track. You don't see them at the top of the level as much. However, there are people now that are starting to really shred those cars and really dive into putting a firewall and rear mount radiator and do things to that car that you haven't seen in the past. So future of ISs, we may see them becoming more competitive. Yeah. It'd be really cool. I love the way they drive. They're still my favorite chassis to drive personally. Granted, I have the most experience driving them, so I'm a little biased.
Yeah, yeah.
I've owned 3 of them now. I'm a little biased. Yeah. But I love the 2J platform. The NA2J works great in that. You don't need, they make like 265, 270 horsepower. You don't need a ton of power. They're great daily, 4 doors. You can take the kids around or whatnot, go grocery shopping.
Yeah, or load up for a drift day, like how many tires you can fit.
They're a great car. I could fit 6 in the back seats, 2 in the front seat, and 2 more in the trunk. So I could bring 1, 2, 8, 10. I could bring 10 tires with me in the one car and just go out.
That's way more. I could fit 4 with all of my tools and everything in the car. 4 is the maximum.
Yeah, I fit 10, a jack, and a breaker bar.
Dang.
Gone.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of tires.
I've got videos of me like loaded up going to the compound and the tire's like right here and I'm driving the whole way and it's leaning on me, but I got this thing so stacked full of tires because all I wanted to do was drive all day.
Dang. Well, any final thoughts, comments, anything you want to ask me or say?
All I could say, and just my best closing statement, I think for anyone that's kind of in a similar position to where I was like a year and a half ago, which is I really want to do this and I don't have a way that seems possible to do it, doesn't hurt to try. And if you're going to try, go all in. Put your everything into it. And the sponsors you're talking to, if you are realistic with them and you're like, hey, this is where I'm at, this is what I got, I know it's not the most, but I know I can do it, I believe in myself, and just let them know that you truly believe in yourself, because that matters too. It's easier for someone else to believe in you if you believe in yourself first.
Yeah.
Even to the point of being like cocky at times, right? Like I say all the time, I know I'm going to be a pro driver. Do I think I'm at that level yet? Not at all. I still have a lot of learning to do. I still have a lot of seat time to get. I'm doing pretty good for now, but like I still wholeheartedly I can say that I'm going to. And if that's the mindset that you keep the entire time, you're going to get it. Just keep trying, looking for different ways. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have something that you've worked really hard for it to fall through. You're going to have difficulties, but don't give up. There's always another way around it. If it takes you off the track for a year and a half, like it did me, while I was working on getting back on the track with that being the only goal, it took me a year and a half, but I came way farther in that year and a half than I expected to. At this time, year and a half ago, I thought that I'd maybe have the motor done on the IS and be back on track. And instead I have a fully built pro ready car. Like, and it was all just from taking risks and chasing the same goal for the entire year consistently, taking 2 flights a month almost and putting all the money that I had into those flights just to put me in the position to have a chance to talk to the people that I needed to talk to that could actually make something happen for me. Just to get a chance. I risked everything, all that I had, for not even a guarantee to be able to talk to somebody, for them to not even have a guarantee of giving me a shot.
Yeah.
And I did that time and time and time and time again. And there are plenty of sponsors and people I reached out to that just turned me down, and I put a lot of effort into it, but keep trying. Don't give up on it. Somebody will say yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, 69 million millionaires in the country, or is it in the world? 69 million millionaires. You'll find one. Yeah. You'll find somebody that will believe in you enough, if you believe in yourself enough, to like help you out and help you get a start. Because I ain't going back from here. I'm only going up.
Hell yeah. Well, that's a great note to end on, man. I really appreciate you joining us today. If you like this, give a thumbs up, drop a comment, share, and we'll catch you next time, fam. Peace.
Have a good one.